So today I have prepared a presentation, a talk about Jekyll RDF. In the beginning, I'll just tell you what is Jekyll. I suppose that most of you know what the Jekyll is. So Jekyll is a Ruby-based static site generator by Tom Preston Werner. It's open source under MIT license. Its web pages are written down here, jekylrb.com, and it allows you quite easily to create static web pages using Ruby, using Liquid language, and Markdown, this kind of stuff. So basically, you are creating the Markdown files, and it based on those files and on some rules which are defined in the Ruby. In the Jekyll configuration, it creates quite easily quite nice static web pages. So maybe you have seen this page. This is completely made in Jekyll, or this one for this, which is documentation for Termit. It has quite a lot of advantages. I think that one of the best advantages is that it's really easy to work with GitHub. So you can create the GitHub pages, the documentation, and you can tell GitHub, okay, this part of repository, this is documentation, so create static pages based on this, publish it here and here, and this serves as a documentation for the repository. So this is a case of Termit. The case of KBSS, we are serving it on our server. So the second thing how you can use Jekyll is that you just tell him Jekyll build. It builds you the static pages in the specific folder, which is called site. And you just copy this content of site folder anywhere you want on the internet, and this is your web page. It supports quite a lot of themes. This is one of the most complete catalogs of Jekyll themes, jekyllthemes.io. You can find some free themes. Some are paid. It's not super expensive. Most of them are up to $100, which is not so expensive. Regarding that, it can give you a really nice, really professional looking like web pages. We are usually looking at the minimal mistakes, which is here on the right. Both Termit and KBSS pages are based on these minimal mistakes. It is done in a way that it's really easy to use, and it's almost impossible to create some mistakes. But I create quite a lot when I was playing with that, and I think that it's quite a common thing. Okay, it's Ruby-based, so there is a lot of plugins, and it is really easy to install those plugins using Gemfile. I will show it to you later, but right now you can see that there is a user on GitHub which is called Jekyll, and it has a repository with the almost complete list of Jekyll plugins. It can help you with a lot of stuff. And right here on the right side of the page, you can see what Jekyll documentation tells us about the plugins. So it's really easy to work with that. You just need to install it somehow, which you can do using the gem command, or just writing it into the gem file and then rebuild it using the package bundle. And then you just configure it in the configuration file in YAML, which is the basic part of the Jekyll repository, and then if you have it configured, it's just working. That's it. And I want to speak today about the Jekyll RDF. What are we trying to achieve using the Jekyll RDF? On the left side, you can see that we have some graph. I used, as an example, some data from Wikidata. It's about the Czech ice hockey player Jiří Hrdina, who had birthday yesterday, so this is why I chose him. And you can see that on the left side we have some RDF. This is knowledge graph, and basically what we want to do is that we want to represent the data in the knowledge graph in some human readable way. We want to construct a web page based on that. So from the information we have on the left side, we could recreate something like on the right side. So Jiří Hrdina was born in the city of Mladá Boleslav on the 5th January 1958, which is exactly what is in the graph on the left side. But as we are teaching our students in semantic web, ontology semantic web subject, we tell them that the difference is that if you do it from this semantic web site, the computer understands the meaning of the sentence. So basically, if I look into this resource, Wikidata WikiQ 1689784, this is how it is rendered in the wikidata.org. And basically what Jekyll RDF as a plugin does is that it allows the users to render the data in some way, which may be like this example in the Wikidata. It also may be different, so I'll speak about that in the following few minutes. So basically this Jekyll RDF, it's a plugin for rendering RDF data into the static web pages. It has a repository on GitHub. If you look into that repository, you see that most of the contributors are Germans, and most of those Germans are coming from Leipzig University. So basically, I suppose that this is the child of the Leipzig University, or at least a lot of people from the university are contributing to this repository. In the README file, there is quite complete documentation. It's not always really easy to read, but in the end, you will achieve what you want, meaning that you can render your RDF data. And I will show you how to do that in the few slides. So first, we need to create a Jekyll page. We can do that by those three commands: gem install bundle Jekyll. This install the Jekyll package. Second thing is that you need to create a new Jekyll page. So I used Jekyll new is the command, and RDF pages is the name of the page. It creates the whole new folder which contains everything what is needed to compile. And then you just enter that folder. That's it. When you have it, you need to install the RDF plugin. And here on the right side, we see something which is called the Gemfile. As I said, Jekyll is based on Ruby. In Ruby, you can have the Gemfile, and the Gemfile contains the basic commands, basic information about plugins, about the versions, and this kind of stuff. And if you run bundle install, it downloads everything from the Gemfile, including the dependencies. Or you can just run bundle update. It just updates what has changed in the Gemfile. I had some issues during that. The only thing I needed to download was libyaml /dev package. I used Aptitude for that. But it's not so difficult to find out what's wrong, because it tells you something. You just Google it, and it tells you in the first result that you need to install libyaml dev. So if you look on the right side, we can see that in this Gemfile, what we have here, the sources from where we are downloading the packages. We can specify the name of the package and its version. So we are using Jekyll in version 3.1. This is done because Jekyll RDF is not supported in the most recent version. It's always a little bit behind. I think that 3.9 is not the newest version which is supported, but it's something which worked for me. Then we need to use some theme. This is the minima. This is the default theme. If we create a new Jekyll site, the minima is the basic theme which is supported in the version 2.5. Then I needed to download or include the grammar parser GFM. And also, this is something I found out quite easily because when I was trying to compile the pages, it told me that it doesn't have the grammar parser GFM which is needed. So I just added it here to Gemfile. And then we are looking for some plugins. The plugin which we are interested in is the Jekyll RDF plugin in the version 3.2. So this is how to include the plugin and how to install it by running the bundle update. And then we need to configure it somehow. In the Jekyll folder, or in the folder of the Jekyll page, we have the file config.yaml. And there are 3 steps of the configuration which are needed in order to make it work. So the first step, we need to define the base URL and URL of the page. This is something which is not so much connected to the RDF because it is used anyway. And in the configuration, we just specify what is the URL of the page, which is basically the host name and the protocol. So I can run it on Michal main. How is it called? Slash? No. Dash. No. Michal-net.cz. That's cool, okay. And the base URL is where on this server the page is running. So it may be empty, or it may be something like KBSS web or something like that. So I used KBSS web. Why is it important for the RDF plugin? Is that if you do not say otherwise, it expects that all the base arrays of the data, RDF data, will have this base array. Base array is the combination of URL and base URL. You don't need to have it like this. You can rewrite it. So that means that you can use different base array for the RDF and different base URL for the page itself. I will show you later. But if you do not specify the base URI for the RDF, it uses this combination. The second thing is we need to tell Jekyll that we want to use this plugin. So in the section plugins, you just include the Jekyll RDF like this. So it's minus Jekyll RDF. And the last thing to configure is that in the next part of the config YAML file, you just set some attributes. So you tell them that you want to set up the Jekyll RDF, and right here, this is quite funny. Look that right here, this is not a minus, this is the underline. So this is something which I was fighting with for like 3 hours because it wasn't working. It was telling me that I don't have configured Jekyll RDF, and the problem was that right here in the Jekyll RDF, it's not with the minus, it's with the underline. So just be aware of that. And right here you can define some of the attributes, configure the plugin. So the first attribute, which is quite important, is attribute path, and right here you specify where to look for the data. So the easiest thing is that you have the data somewhere in the structure, in the first folder structure. So I have it in data rdf people.ttl. Then you specify some template. This is the way how the data is rendered. I will show you later in more detail how it looks like. But basically, this is some HTML file that you include in the layouts in the layouts folder in the Jekyll repository. And right here, I told you about the base URI. So if it differs from the combination of URL and base URL, you can define the base array here. So base array for this RDF people data is on default cvutcz /ontology/kbss web. So this is the basic configuration, and using this configuration, this is the easiest way how to make it work. So the base path specification, this is what I was talking about before. So this is the combination of URL and base URL, or if you have specified base array. So usually if I have this base array specified like this, this means that if I have a resource with this identifier, so it comes from the base array and ends with Miroslav Bashko. So it renders the page in the base URL folder /miroslavbashko.html. So that's it. Then we are using some templates. We can use specific templates for specific data, which can be defined in using the attributes class template mappings or instance template mappings. You can see here that if I want to use a specific template for all instances of WAF person, I can define it here that attribute class template mapping is that for every instance of person I use the person HTML template, or I can define it for the specific instances. So if I have the instance ontology team, so for this instance, I can use the team HTML template. All of those templates have to be present in the repository, otherwise it doesn't have any template to use. But you have some variability with rendering of the data. So that's it. And how the template looks like. So as I said before, you place it in the layouts directory, and it may look like this. So basically, you create some HTML body, and in this body, you can use some specific keywords which work for the RDF. So in this case, for the resource, I use the page RDF with the property of name, and this property I'm writing here in this line, and in the next line, I'm rendering if there are some other resources in this resource which are starting with this base array, I can also render those names. That's it.
Sorry, Michal. Could you explain it better?
I will show you better in the future. I have some live demo prepared. Yeah.
Okay.
So then we also can use some other attributes with the restrictions. Basically, if we have the large amount of data, we can restrict the rendering only to some specific query. So we can use the SPARQL query in the attribute restriction. So for example, in this one, I'm selecting all the resource queries in case where for all the resources which knows some resource Martin Ledvinka. So all people that know Martin Ledvinka, not people, all resources that know Martin Ledvinka will be already presented here. So we can use this restriction. We can use it for restricting it for usage of a specific template, or we can use it just that we want to restrict the data which will be rendered, meaning that those who doesn't respond to the query are not rendered at all, for example. So that's it. And we have some other options. We can set if we are rendering blank nodes or not. We can set the default language. In this case, we have set it for English. We can set it for any other language. So we can. This is good for support of multilingual pages. For example, we see that, for example, the Jekyll page used for Termit is multilingual. So if we base it on some RDF data, we can just switch the default language for every language mutation. For each language mutation, and that's it. So it's quite easy to set it up somehow. And here is the data sample which I was using. So I created two resources, Miroslav Blaško and Martin Medvinka. Both are FOAF persons, and they have FOAF name, which is string, and they know each other. That's it. This is a really easy data sample, but it works. How to build the site? If we have everything set up, we just call the Jekyll build command, and the Jekyll build command is compiling all the data, and it creates this site file which includes all of the data. It includes everything you need to serve the page, including some CSS style and assets, pictures, everything. And right here you see that for every resource which is present in the RDF data, you have created an HTML file. So we have martinedvinka.html and Miroslav Blaško.html, and it looks like this in the data. So if you look at this KBSS Miroslav Blaško, you see that name. That's it. Okay, so the resource accesses, those are some specific keywords which we can use to access the resources. Basically, we have we are using those double brackets. So the page RDF basically shows what is the thing itself. This is the representation of the resource. And if you use the IRA, in the end, it's the identifier of this resource. So if you want to talk about the thing itself, it's page RDF. If you want to talk about its identifier, it's page RDF.IRI. Some other stuff you can do is if you have page RDF, you are building basically triples using I'm really not sure how is this sign called in English. It's can you help me somehow, please?
Pipe.
Pipe? Okay, so it's pipe. So we are using pipes to build the triples. So this tells you that you are looking for the thing with the RDF property for nodes. So if you use like this, you get the result HTTPS ontologies CZ ontologies KBSS with Martin Medvinka because Miro Blaško knows him. And you can create a pipeline using those pipes. So right here I'm on the identifier of Martin Medvinka. If I want to see its name, I can just add another pipe and look for the RDF property of name. So yeah, right here there is a mistake. Instead of semicolon or colon, there should be the underline on the data. I will show you in the live demo. And we can also use the SPARQL queries. In the template, so basically I can use assign query. I will write some query here, and then I assign the result set for the page RDF using this SPARQL query. And then I can use all the variables which I get from the query result as the variables building the page. So in this case, I'm selecting some sub and pref from the graph where the sub is subject and pre is predicate, and the resource it can be filtered some way. So that's it, and I'm just writing it into the table.
So can I ask? So this page RDF returns this RDF which is behind the page, right?
Yes.
And this is queried by the query.
But by this query, which is defined here in the first line, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then there was a problem with reading multiple data. I was playing with the RDF Jekyll because I wanted to use it on the KBSS website, and I had a problem that it works only with the one file. You cannot upload more files and use different files or combine it together. So I asked in the GitHub and I got the answer that it's not possible to upload multiple files, but there is a workaround. You can upload multiple files into some SPARQL endpoint. some triple store, and you can choose the remote endpoint in the attributes. It's all defined in the documentation. And you can access these endpoints. That means that instead of using the turtle file, you attach the Jekyll page to some specific endpoint, and you are getting all the data from there. So this is also good for the usage of the SPARQL and SPARQL queries. You usually don't want to work with the whole content of the endpoint. And right now I'll show you the demo, and I think that I'm sharing only the presentation.
Yep.
So right now I'm stopping the presentation and I'll show the entire screen. Yes, am I sharing? Yeah, I see the tunnel.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so I show you how does it look like. Right here I have the project. In the project I have this Gemfile, then I have this configuration file. In the configuration file, this is basically the configuration file generated by Jekyll himself. So I can set the title, email, description, this kind of stuff. But what is important here is that I'm using the plugins. So I set the plugin for Jekyll RDF. And in here, this is the configuration of Jekyll RDF. So I tell him, look for those data, use this RDF layout.
Sorry, have you been talking about specifying this file, the only one, this path, or what? Because you said you can set up only one file.
Yes. In this path, you can have only one file, but it's possible to access the remote data instead of the local data. And as the remote data, you can specify the SPARQL endpoint. So you can use it instead of this texture file. Then you set the default template, which is RDF layout. I have it saved here on the left side in the layout. So this is the RDF layout. It is quite easy. It looks like this. So this is an HTML page with the head and with the body. In the body there is some header, and the header defines the content, which is basically everything that you can which can get there. And then I try to render the name, and so page RDF with pipe and RDF property of name, and then I want to know who does this person with this name know. So I render the page RDF property of nodes, and then I continue in the pipeline with RDF property of name. So this is the basic layout. If I would like to use specific layouts for specific classes, I can add it into this configuration part of the config YAML file. So that's it. I can show the input data. So this is the same as I showed you before. So it's Miroslav Blaško knowing Martina Dvinka, knowing Blaško. So that's it. And how to make it run. So I just get into this file, and basically I use the bundle. Jekyll build. And Jekyll build is bundle exec. So I can hide it into the bundle exec. If I run this command, it's building the site again. You can see that it's done, generated feed for post, and right here in this site, I have generated all the files I needed. And I can also run it locally. So this is the similar command. It's bundle exec Jekyll serve, and it rebuilds it again and serves at the local host. So that's it. I can look in the page. So this is the page. And right now on this page, I can add, in the future, eventually, I can add some links to those resources or the stuff. I can use some specific templates for that. So you can build quite a complex page only using the circle files, but I'm here just to show you how does it work. So if I say here Miroslav Blaško, sorry, it was KBS website, not sure. Maybe this is web. I get what I asked in the template. So the name is Miroslav Blaško and he knows Martina Lidvinka. If I ask for Martina Lidvinka, it will be similar. Yeah. And the thing is, in this layout, if I want to make it more interesting, I can just include the identifier and I'll do it like this. So if I want the identifier, I just remove the last part of the pipeline. You see that it was regenerated automatically, meaning that it notices that I have changed something in the data and it regenerates it. So I think that if I look at right now and refresh it, yes, I get the identifier of the resource. So that's it. This is the most simple demo, so most simple example of what I wanted to show you. And yes. And this is some additional reading. The full documentation is in this GitHub repository, and there is also a paper on Jekyll RDF. So this is also quite nice to look at. And that's all from my side for now. And I hope that it was inspirational for you. And maybe you have some questions. I'm not really sure that I'm able to answer that, but I will try.
Okay, maybe I have questions. I was just wondering because there are so many frameworks for like building like static websites. I was just wondering why you started with this one over like some other one. Is it because of the language, because you wanted to use Ruby, or for any
No,
specific?
it was when we started to build the Termite web pages, the documentation for Termite. We were looking into some stuff, and I just like this one most. I think it's really easy to build it, and I like using the Markdown. That's all.
Okay.
And then we were discussing. Like a year ago, we started to think about rebuilding the web pages of KBSS, and it was originally built in something different. I'm not really sure how it's called. I think that Maciej Kulich, he was doing something with that. I'm not really sure. And then we had a discussion about that, and we just agreed that we will use Jekyll because it's more simple. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
So, Michal, if I understand it correctly, this is the plugin is just for populating a web page from RDF data.
Yes, basically.
So, if, for example, if a client asks for RDF data, it won't work. So it's not like returning the correct format based on the accept of the request.
I don't think so. Yes, I think that it would be possible to edit there somehow, but this is basically not the not the use case of the plugin. The plugin is used for rendering the RDF data into the HTML pages. So
Okay.
basically, semantic web.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
Basically, I think that it's not a big problem for Jekyll to serve the RDF data somehow.
Yeah, somehow. The question is how.
Okay. So maybe I would ask, could you have multiple templates? I'm not sure if I understood how you could do like multiple templates of generating data.
Multiple templates, yes. You can have multiple templates. You have the default template, which is defined in the configuration YAML. So in here you have the default template, and this is used if there is no other rule that refers to that template. And otherwise, you can edit templates. I had it in the presentation somewhere in the upper part. For those templates, you can yes, you can use the class template mapping or instance template mapping. So you can use those attributes. Basically, you just write it into the configuration file. So I can use here the class template mappings. And in here, I use the pair of the class and the template used. So basically, I can say for person will be using the person HTML and I don't know, RDFS class like this. You see? So in this way, I can define specific template. So basically, right now, if the Jekyll is trying to render some of the data, so it checks if it's person or if it's RDFS class, and if not, it uses the default template. Otherwise, it uses the template which is specified for the specific class, or I can use that instance template mapping. Which works the same for the instances, specific instances. Is it understood, you know? I hope so. So any other questions?
Yeah, it was clear. Just could you put it back on this configuration part? So we could basically substitute what you had if you would remove RDF class and instance template mapping. It would work the same because that person was of type person.
Yeah.
So okay. Okay, I guess I understood to some
There's
extent.
quite a lot of
Not sure about the instances, but okay, I guess it's enough.
There's quite a lot of stuff which you can play with in this, but you know, right now this presentation is over half an hour, and it would take another hour to get into more detail. So I just recommend you to look into this GitHub repository, and in this README file, which is quite long, you have everything showed with the examples. Yeah. You can just list in here. You can just use the restriction that you have the clear list of resources you want to render. Or in here you can you have some more details about the templates, how to play with the templates, how to render those data, some optional language selection, and in the end you have quite a lot of yeah, it's quite long, you see.
Okay, so what would be the most straightforward usage of this for KBSS page?
I think that if some ideas are that we could everything we have there basically now in HTML, we could store it in the RDF somewhere, use it as the RDF store, and just use it for rendering the pages, for example.
Yeah, we actually do have some of the data in GraphDB. That's sample data that I was providing to Maciej when he was working on the LiveFrame plugin.
Yes.
It actually has the benefit over this solution that it does support returning the format based on the client's request. So it can return RDF data if the client asks for it.
Basically, we can have some triple store with the data, and we can return the data from that store if the client asks for that. And moreover, we can use just this RDF Jekyll RDF plugin with the remote attribute, which is set to that endpoint, and we can build the whole pages from that. It just takes some work with the templates. That's all.